everyone, it is me, Jay, your DM. I use he, him.
And it is me, Air, who also uses both he and him.
I'm Jerika. I use he with an S in front of it, and also her.
And he with an R at the end of it.
And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of our own bad decisions, like this intro, and deliver the treasure of wisdom.
We're batting 1,000.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another delightful episode. It's been a while since I've been here in the hot seat.
Welcome back.
Oh my god, my ass is burning in this hot seat.
It's, we made sure to keep it warm for you.
Yeah, I mean, there was the 50th episode, which was Girls' Night.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was 52, which was the Mad Stravaganza.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Eric episode where I wasn't invited. The sound recordings just showed up on my desk one day.
Specific
totally
requests,
unprompted.
All brown M&Ms on the rider. Specifically no J. I don't know what it is with that. No,
and
that's
like
not true.
it was weird. Like the files just showed up one day unannounced. I was like, "Oh, we had Eric Alloway on," and they were like, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh, nobody thought to tell me," and they were like, "It's really none of your business." Just edit the episode.
Thought to tell you.
It's just edit the damn episode. All right, fine. That's fair. I admit that is fair. No, it was a couple of great episodes, and I wasn't in all of them, which is a scary common denominator for me. But here I am back on this podcast. So I guess we normally don't start this show with like 4 or 5 minutes of self-affirmation. Typically, we do start it with...
That was affirmation. We are in a lot of trouble.
We do start it with the dungeon crawl. I sure hope you came prepared.
Oh, shit. I did, actually. I, for once, came ready to get all down in this dungeon. Get up, get on down. Be on the scene. And no more of that song. I recently started listening to The Adventure Zone, which is funny and lots of.
Welcome to 2015.
Like that? Is that like a pronunciation?
Like what?
Necessity? Like you?
What do you mean? There's nothing wrong with the way I say
The
Adventure Zone.
Have I been pronouncing it wrong this whole time? Probably.
I mean, I don't want to place any judgment at your feet, but a little. I'm kidding.
Sorry, Jerika, you're bad and wrong.
Okay, it's a winning combination. Yeah. I'm kidding. No. It was recommended to me by pretty much everyone I know. They said if you like Mabim Bam, you'll love this, and I was like
Mabim Bam.
But
that's what we real Mabim Bam aficionados call it.
You mean my brother, and me?
Yes.
Award-winning podcast, My Brother and Me, who will be in Trolls 2.
By sheer force of will.
They did
it. They got it done. You can't.
What the fuck?
Can't.
Can I just start a podcast called "I Will Be on Television" and it works out for me?
That actually, by the title alone, is something I now want to listen to.
Joshua Key will be on television.
So anyway, yeah, I just listened to, I think, the wrap-up of, they started with the starter set, so they just killed off spoilers from like 2015, killed off Magic Brian, wizard extraordinaire.
Listen, you don't have to worry about spoilers. You are literally the last person boarding this train.
It's great.
You're the last one.
I haven't listened to any of it.
But were you ever going to really?
I mean, I have a thing for Travis, so maybe eventually, but probably not.
Yeah.
Don't we all, though?
Here's the thing about the Adventure Zone. It's basically, it starts off with probably one of the worst first episodes of a podcast. Griffin thought it was a joke, like they were doing it one time because somebody was like not feeling well and they had to get an episode of their podcast done and they didn't have a lot of time, so they just played D&D. And so they were just like taking a break and they were, okay, we're going to do it this one time, whatever. And so they played it sort of farcical. The rules were very light. Griffin was very begrudging to be there. It was kind of like a real half-assed effort, that first episode. And Travis, God bless his soul, did a great job editing the recut of the first episode to make it, like, good.
You see, I listened to the first episode and then saw version 1.5. I thought the first episode was perfectly fine. Like, I don't know, they had all their shtick and their goofs and...
Listen, on the scale of the Adventure Zone, it's not very good. In the scale of, like, the universe, it might be fine. Like, you know, with accounting for all other podcasts, it might be okay. But, like, for the bar that the brothers set, you would expect a higher quality first episode. But they really get their shit together in episode 2. And it really, I mean, they kill it by the end of that arc. It's super funny. Like, the Magic Brian stuff is so good.
So good.
Abraca fuck you!
Abraca fuck you was great. Who am I don't know.
Yeah, which one of us is the evil one? Oh my goodness. Yeah, exactly.
It was
classic. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's classic Adventure Zone. By the time they hit episode 4, they're dealing with Brian. It's just all cylinders are firing. It's a great
Wait, how long is each episode?
Only like an hour?
Oh, that's nothing. That's perfect length for
yeah,
my busy life.
I mean, for a D&D show, it's not so bad. Like, I mean, it's literally probably, I think it's 69 episodes total because of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it fucking is. It's 69 episodes total. Most episodes are between 40 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes. So they're in that zone.
Like our zone.
Around an hour. Yeah, exactly. We're in a similar zone. One might say inspired by such a length.
No.
Yeah. But yes, so they're all kind of in that zone, except for the finale, which is 2.5 hours. Because they wanted to end it on episode 69. It's literally that long because they wanted to end it.
Is there a lot of stretching 69. In that episode, or a lot of craziness?
No, it's just like, you know, it's like, hey, we have to resolve everything. Buckle up. It's... Oh my god. Like, it starts off as Lost Mines of Phandelver, a very truncated version of Lost Mines of Phandelver, because literally in the middle of the arc, Griffin is like, yeah, I'm skipping a bunch of stuff because it's boring. Here we go. And he jumps straight to, like, the resolution of Lost Mines of Phandelver. And then I don't want to spoil anything for Eric because he's not that far in, but it goes off the fucking rails after episode 4. Some shit goes down in 5 and 6 that, this series has a reputation for a reason. It's buck wild.
I'm looking forward to diving into those good goofs.
And, you know, congratulations.
Thank you. I took the plunge.
This, I think is it a drow voice that is that voice? Yes.
Yes.
Is that an episode 2 thing?
That is an episode 4 thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just probably going to start at episode 4 then.
Honestly, I wouldn't blame you.
Okay,
cool. It's fine. You know Lost Mines of Phandelver, you know the kind of general layouts. Ayer, you just watched it. Does Taco get the umbrella in 4?
No, he does not have. I know of the umbrella because of
Sam did it.
Sam's cosplay. But sorry.
I'm pretty sure they had the umbrella before they fought Brian.
I don't remember an umbrella. They have the boots of leaping and striding, or striding and
there was
striking.
Like a red-robed skeleton.
Nope, none of that. Not that I heard, at least.
Okay, all right. I don't know.
Different podcasts.
I mean, I do phase in and out of consciousness on a daily basis, so who knows what could have happened in the intervening period. But it struck me very much like I fell in love with D&D listening to the Acquisitions Incorporated, the early AI stuff, and it struck me very much as that. I was talking to Jay, like, it's a bunch of, like, the starter set, Lost Mines of Phandelver, it's a pretty generic D&D adventure, and they're using the pre-rolled characters, which are pretty generic pre-rolled characters. You got a fighter, a cleric, like a champion fighter, a life cleric, and an evocation wizard.
Nature cleric.
Oh, is he a nature cleric? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought... Anyway, suffice it to
my druid goodness. I want this content.
There isn't any.
So suffice it to say, they're pretty, and their characters are silly, but they're not really fleshed out yet. But what really sells it is the table talk and just the shenanigans. The fact that they were there were the mushrooms that sprayed out poisonous spores every time they spoke, and they just started riffing off that, finding reasons to talk just so they could make a con save was pretty fun.
Okay, one last question to clarify something. Did they do the part where they did the...
Yep.
Have they gone to the vault yet?
No.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Now Jay knows where the rails are. I can crawl in the very small dungeon. And my first comment about the small folk game that we had very recently.
Ooh.
Last weekend isn't going to mean anything to you in the future.
Dear checkers.
That Leap is a very thoughtful and empathetic DM.
Aww.
He's very good at communicating and making sure people get time and to even prepare people to have time, which is a new experience for me. It's an interesting way to DM that I am excited to be able to observe. I was playing a mouse druid.
Surprise.
And we were at I think it was an end of fall party, and we were just walking around the party getting to know people. But I got to sing a song to a shell-capped, which is a snail. And that was amazing.
Can we get maybe just a bar or two?
So the snare, let me lay out the snare for you.
Paint me a word picture, Jerika.
Oh boy. So there were these bats that were being shady. Maybe I'm racist. And they were doing the cup game where you put something under a cup and you have to follow the cup, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the lady, I don't know, but with cups. Anyway, so they said that they had taken some money from a shell capped, and I was like, and I got some money from them. And I went over to the shell capped, who was played as kind of a little aloof and a little different, which is exactly what my character was into. And I asked the shell cap what their name was, and they were like, we don't really have names, and I could see the quotes going. So I was like, why don't I sing you a name for that you can use? And they were like, yes. So what was it? Do 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 is basically what the name was.
That's a lovely name,
Yeah.
My grandfather had that name.
I have more suave moves as a mouse in a D&D game than I ever had as a human woman, but that's okay.
I want the shell cap to go over to the bats that are playing the shell game and just be like, this is really offensive to my people.
Well,
I don't appreciate what you're doing here with these shells.
Yeah.
These shells can go to hell.
Wow.
In other words that rhyme with shell.
These shells might as well go to hell. I'll ring the bell and start this fight as well. Anyway.
Let this line of conversation be quelled.
All right. So, I don't have a dungeon crawl, so that's good. But I do have a roll call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
We're doing... All right. Have you guys been watching Queer Eye this weekend or something? The yas is very strong in this episode. The yas. I mean, it's a great show.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun for the whole family, and also tears. So this week we're talking about wizards. None that live on the coast. We're staying well away from there. But we are just discussing, those wizarding ways.
Inland wizards only.
Inland wizards
Coastal
only.
wizards need not apply.
Landlocked wizards or bust.
I better not fucking see a goddamn island wizard, or I will
Surfer
lose my
wizards?
mind.
Those archipelago wizards are right out.
Archipelago. You know what? I'm not even super thrilled on small continents
Peninsula
like
wizards?
Australia.
No, yes. Small continents
Basically
like
a large
Australia.
island, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a
much
large
coast.
island. New Zealand, You're even smaller than Australia. All right?
Much smaller.
You definitely
Yeah.
don't count.
Look
It's
north.
going to be
There's the
inland
bar.
wizards from mainland continents.
Wow. Yeah.
China wizards, America wizards, South America wizards,
Russia
European
wizards?
wizards, African wizards, especially African wizards. They are so cool. But Australian wizards, get out. Antarctica
We
wizards,
love
no
all
way.
of our wizard
shtick
listeners from
Is
all
like in the
parts of the
ground.
world.
and
Yeah,
being
we've killed
choked
it.
on.
So anyway, wizards. We're
In
talking
the
about
ground
wizards.
specifically. They weren't buried at sea. In the ground.
So in the first edition of Dungeons and Dragons, they were known as magic users. They were not even called wizards. They were just magic users. It was fighting men, magic users, and clerics. Clerics were the only one who were right from the start.
They don't use magic ever.
Well, there you go. It's a different brand, right?
Fighting men, magic user, prayer boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Magic?
Holy
it's
guy.
My God.
It's my god.
Oh my God. Oh my God is an awesome God.
He reigns.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
heaven above
And that's
with
the
wisdom.
the
He reigns
anthem
with
of
wisdom. That's in our brand. Anyway.
So yeah, first edition they were called magic users. They had a very fun life in first edition. You see, they leveled up slower than everyone else. They had one spell per day. They had a % chance to learn spells when they attempted to. And even if they did manage to survive all of these crippling handicaps, the magic user in first edition didn't get cantrips. So you literally got to cast one spell and you were done. That was it for you on that particular day. Go to bed, wake up the next day. Now you get another chance to cast spells. It was, let's see. Second edition was mostly like first edition. I think we really see the formation of the wizard as we know it today in third edition when they introduced the concepts of cantrips, which are basic minor spells that you can always have. But the idea of the wizard in the first editions, I'm imagining, is very heavily influenced by people like Gandalf, right? People who didn't cast a lot of
Tolkien,
magic,
yeah.
but when they did, it was like reality warping, crazy levels of power. Because the first and second edition wizard, while early on was super weak, late into their life would literally be able to stop time and change the universe with their wishes and do all sorts of crazy shit. So it was kind of, there was actually a phrase for it. It was called linear fighter, quadratic wizard.
Yeah.
Where the fighter linearly grew. It got steadily stronger over time, but the wizard's growth was quadratic. It was exponential. Every time it leveled up, it got tremendously more powerful.
Towards the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that
Well, I mean, even the gap from 1 to 2, if you get one extra spell a day, is huge for that one spell wizard. I mean, gosh, the first edition wizard is an unpleasant thing to start out with. But yeah, so wizards. Wizards are a cornerstone of the game. They're a cornerstone of fantasy. Obviously, you've got the classic examples of Merlin and Gandalf standing out as these sort of legendary advisor, mentor figures. And then you've got
your famous D&D wizards like Raceland, and then our good friend Rory Gilmore. Of Rory Gilmore's telepathic bond fame. Yeah, and all of the other ones, Mordenkainen, any of the ones that have spells named after them.
Sword of Truth, whose name is also R. Oh gosh, never mind.
What is the book called? 3 Lions and 3 Swords? Something like that. No, 3 Hearts, 3 Lions. It was a classic fantasy book where a lot of Dungeons and Dragons descends from. And it has the hag early on who mentors the character, our protagonist, in the ways of meddling in fey affairs. So she's sort of the wizard advisor. It's a classic role of the sort of smart, intelligent advisor to a hero who is more martial in prowess, the paladin or the fighter.
And so much better than the original working title, A Heart for Every Lion.
Nom nom nom.
What? What? Hang on. What? All right. Well, I hate it. A heart for every lion. Nom nom nom. I mean, it was like one was like, huh, and then the second one was like, wait. Now you're just fucking with me. Obviously, the modern wizard's plight is a little less severe. They start off with 2 spells per day. But they also have a series of 3 cantrips.
They actually
usually
have cantrips, yeah.
Yeah, which they can use infinite number of times, and they can perform minor effects that are equivalent to a fighting man's ability to punch and kick. You're not going to feel too left behind by your barbarian, who can, a barbarian wakes up a barbarian and goes to bed a barbarian. Very little changes in between. Whereas a wizard wakes up a spell-casting Shaper of Worlds and goes to bed an old geriatric, like if they get attacked in their bed.
By a lion.
Just looking for a heart.
Sure. Just looking for somebody to love.
Yeah. Don't you want somebody
Lion,
to
the
love?
Lonely Hearts version. Good.
What? I'm going to throw this whole episode out.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative.
So let's get into some questions, though. We took questions on our Discord, which you were definitely invited to. If you are interested in joining, go to our Twitter for a link. But we took questions.
Yeah, and I've got 2 here that I think I have both an answer for and kind of conjoin in my mind here. The first comes from our dear good boy Leap, asking, what do we think are the underplayed or undervalued schools of magic? And a follow-up question from our friend Kate, if you could change one feature of one wizard school, which would it be and why? And the reason I've conjoined these is I think the most underplayed or undervalued school of magic is enchantment. Just because there's so many. I was just scrolling through earlier. Like, you got your biggies. Divination has a lot of power. Basically getting to replace roles without an action or anything like that outside the action economy. Avocation is great for blasting. Abjuration's great for defense. War magic's great for both. Necromancy lets you have an entire undead army behind you.
All right, I'm going to have you take a take 2 at necromancy.
How did I say it? Necromancy?
Necromancy.
Necromancy. Yeah, that's how it's said.
No, you said necromancy.
Man cry. Yeah.
Oh my.
Neko man cry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Neko man cry is pretty good. Yeah, I'm just, it's all up from here. Conjuration is some neat stuff, but enchantment, like even when you look at the first ability it offers you, Hypnotic Gaze, you actually have to be within 5 feet of the person that you're trying to charm, and you have to like stare into their eyes. This is kind of like the snake from Jungle Book. You have to be staring right into them. Your soft words and enchanting gaze can magically enthrall another. And you basically have to use your action constantly to just stand beside this target and concentrate on staring deeply into their eyes. Like, it's basically a super shitty charm person you can use once a day.
But it's like level 1.
Level 2. Like, you've got charm person already if you want it.
I don't think I've ever seen an enchanter wizard, so I'm inclined to agree with you that it must not be too exciting. But I don't really know what they could have done.
I think just once they're charmed, because like charm person isn't even a concentration spell. If they fail the save, bada boom. Like, there's still a save on this too. It's a wisdom save just like charm person. And then if they fail it with the spell, they're just charmed by you for an hour.
So basically what you would like is if they just gave charm person to this person as a once a day freebie.
Like a better version of charm person, like this, but maybe it extends the duration or it gives some other effect. But literally the wizard has to stand there and keep using their action to keep this creature charmed. It's a far worse
I think it would be interesting
version.
if they had like a +1 to their spell save on charm spells.
Yeah, that would be great. Any sort of
I think
change.
that would be kind of like a really cool, like, because like a lot of the big important spells are charm spells, right? Like not hold person, Charm person, dominate beast, dominate monster.
Yep.
Those are all classics, and they all fall under the charm effect. That might be interesting. I don't know. Or you may even make a little list and be like, on these, you get a +1 to your spell save DC. It's like, okay, that's extra stuff for your player to keep up with. It's a floating modifier, effectively. But at the same time, I would see that getting used a lot more than weak-ass charm person. Snake Eyes.
Yeah. Woo, woo, woo.
Paulton has a pretty good intrinsic ability where he has Vishtani Eye Curse, and he can stare at a person and they basically do hold person on them with his Vishtani magic. That's a better version of this. That
would have been a better version of this, actually. That's the change I want to see in this.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, okay. For me, I would say, I mean, I think you're right on the money with Enchanter, but the class that I see very little of that I would love to see more of is the Conjuration School, because that ability to swap around on the battlefield is really undervalued, I feel like.
Benign transposition,
that's a really cool ability. There are very few positioning abilities in 5th edition, and that's one of them. Like, just the ability to just be like, hey, that person over there needs to be closer, and I need to be further. Let's make this happen. Let's make this love connection.
And like even the first ability a conjuration expert gets, minor conjuration allows them to conjure an inanimate object no larger than 3 feet on the side. But they, if they drop prone, they can make themselves cover, or they can make themselves trinkets, or things that last for an hour. So really, they can make stuff out of thin air that's kind of useful. Like, man, I really need a crowbar to pry the lid of this, chest open. Wha-bam!
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot like Jerika's obviator ability, where she can pull cheap objects out of a bag. This ability to just sort of have the object you need at a moment is really convenient.
School of Transmutation.
Hey, Caleb's making it popular.
Absolutely.
Caleb Widowgast from Critical Role. He is School of Transmutation.
He's a sad boy, though.
He's a sad boy.
Happy transmuter.
No, but I mean, I think you're right. He's obviously showing how useful it can be. Yeah. The one downside to the School of Divination, and I think it's a really great counterweight to the powerful ability to assign, a bad roll whenever you want, is that there are very, very few divination spells. Very few divination spells. So I've had a divination wizard who really complained about my ability to save half on spell transcription is virtually useless because there are 5 divination spells in the game. It is not great.
The nice thing about divination is you really just want to get one in every level between 1st and 5th, because they have that roll down feature where if you cast a 5th level one, you get a 4th level slot back or whatnot.
Yeah, but there's not many at all.
Yeah.
It's scrying is the first major one, but before that I think it's augury is divination.
Tons.
Yeah, tongues is really situational spell to take.
Detect language or whatever it is. Detect.
Comprehend
languages. That's it.
Is that divination?
It is. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But yeah, so there are a couple, but it's pretty niche, and they're all mostly out of combat spells. So that ability to just regenerate a spell off of a divination is mostly an out of combat feature, which I guess is probably by design.
Indeed. So Jay, you had just mentioned Caleb Widowgast, played by Liam O'Brien on Critical Role, which leads into our next question from John, aka Coffee Robot, who's put this into the Your Q section of our Discord. What's the best hook you've seen for flavoring a wizard's spells? And I know I've heard lots of different ideas about this. My favorite thing that I've seen is related to Caleb. I love how Liam has leaned into the material components for his spells. When he's casting a fireball, he talks about pulling out, a pile of bat guano and a pile of sulfur and slapping them together and forging them into a little bead which glows red and then fires off as a beam, and where that beam ends, a burst of bloom of flame explodes and all this. He's got a really great way of really getting into the kind of mad scientist or the trained scholar aspect of being a wizard when he's casting his spells.
I've talked about him before, but I got a player Stills the Wind, played by my friend Matt Will Jackson. And he plays a goblin wizard, and his goblin wizard is sort of like a tribal shaman style of wizard. So rather than a spell book, he has a rolled up scroll, like a leather scroll. He transcribes spells as sort of like pictorial stories that tell about the spell's abilities, and he rolls the scroll out whenever he's casting, and he has this like nice shamanic flavor, which I thought was very interesting. Really took away from the whole bookworm nerdy wizard vibe. This kind of like, he wears teeth around his neck, and he rolls bones, and he has all these sort of rituals that he believes in, these superstitions. Like whenever he kills someone or someone dies, he breaks a finger so their soul can get out. These kinds of things. Like, he has this really cool shamanic flavor.
I like that
I love.
This like Polynesian, almost like his magic comes from the story of his people, which he's inscribing in the scroll kind of thing.
He specifically believes that rather than gods, it is the elementals who are the primary creators of existence. And so he kind of puts in the elemental flavor into his magic and picks spells accordingly that are sort of elemental in nature. It's very cool. I really liked it, and it's been very fun to watch him play.
I feel bad for my villain PC in that campaign trying so hard to kill him now.
Yeah, it's true. Don't worry, he broke your finger too.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Your soul can get out. It's fine.
My guy had no soul. It's fine. His finger's going to remain intact.
He did sell it.
Can I just talk about Jim Dark Magic
of
for
course.
Like a second?
I want you to talk about Jim Dark Magic for hours.
Well, I don't know if I can.
Well,
okay.
Jim is the wizard I'm most familiar with, which probably says more about me than it does about Jim. But I like the Jim Dark Magic flavor, very like charisma forward. And he's just a rock star wizard, which is it's a flavor I can get behind.
Yeah, and like he comes out of that era of like street performer wizards being big on TV.
Yeah.
He's got that, like, what's that guy's name?
Chris Angel.
He's got
Mind
that
freak.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that flavor.
In fact, when Danny Hartel redid his costume for the most recent live A-Team Acquisitions Incorporated game, she leaned into that.
Of the year goes to Chris Perkins. Second biggest glow up goes to Mike Krulik.
She leaned heavily into that Chris Angel kind of thing with the gothy chains, and it was ludicrous in all the right ways.
Yeah, and like my 90s kid inside me was like, yes.
I did play a divination wizard in a one-shot who was a little gnome wizard, and he was his name was Gerard Toking, and he was a vape wizard. He was terrible. So I took all the spells, like just because it was a one-shot and we weren't doing anything crazy, I just took all of the like Gust was the only like cantrip I had. Gaseous, like I cast Gaseous Form. I blew a 3rd level spell just to float through a keyhole, and I was like, I gotta be the smoke. I gotta. And anyway, just
was that a revelatory moment for your character?
It was
transformational.
I want to know if it was revelatory for you. Are you vaping now?
I have yet to vape, but there was a time in my life when the Wacky Tobacco and I were not unknown to one another.
Oh my God. We got a fucking criminal in this podcast.
Nah, dude, we just legalized it up here. Deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, just legalized it. So this is back in the past. Busted.
Whoa.
I'm sending the police to your house.
I'm sending the time
Jay,
police.
the American police don't have jurisdiction in Canada.
The time police have
Police.
jurisdiction everywhere. At all
Canadian
times.
police
Please
also-
arrest here.
Hey, Canadian police, I've got the recording.
Call them Mounties,
up.
Jay.
You call all your police are Mounties? Is that
No,
serious?
that's not true at all.
Hide in places where horses can't get to.
Hide in places where a moose cannot
I didn't
reach.
know if it was just like Mounties was just like the name, like police was the name for ours. I don't know. I don't know what they fucking do in Canada. Apparently smoke weed all day.
What can I convince you all of that is like a Canadian, standard that you will believe?
Well, you had your chance with
yeah.
Mounties.
I did. I'm sorry. I
blew it.
blew it. I wasted. Listen, I'm on the lookout now.
Speaking
Next
of blowing
time.
it, your wizard character.
Speaking of blowing
I'm
it,
done.
this podcast.
He did gaseous form into a room, reapparated as himself, and then fell into a pit of acid and died.
Oh no.
Ah,
It's how he would have wanted to go.
He
probably.
AFL'd. I see.
He AFL'd hard.
Yeah.
He
Spoilers.
AFL'd.
He AFL'd. Yeah. From Grace. Into
From
an
Grace.
Alrighty, cool. Right.
oof.
So we have two related questions here from Alvin Dergel, if I'm saying that wrong. Alvin. If I'm saying any of this right, let me know.
Exactly.
Asking what is our favorite wizard spell or cantrip to use other than Fireball, in quotes. And then from our good friend Ooze the Muse, what's your favorite combo of wizard spells to use? So any one spell.
Polymorph.
Polymorph is good.
Yeah.
Polymorph is very good.
Even though I'm a bard, I use that spell all the time. All the time.
Love it.
I would imagine it would have to be around in the 5th level range. I feel like that's when the shit really starts popping off for wizards. Oh, I know what it is. My favorite spell is Mislead.
That's that's the one where you leave like a phantom behind and disappear.
Yeah, so you turn
Haunted does
invisible,
that
but
too,
a
I
perfect
believe.
you turn invisible, but a perfect copy of you appears where you were and keeps going, and you can close your eyes and pilot the copy, or you can pilot your body. So you kind of have to like multitask like your two forms, because your consciousness can only be one place or the other. So yeah, you get this. So it's this really cool thing where, as a wizard, you can just escape a situation that you don't want to be in, or sneak into a place, and then if you get busted, your Mislead just vanishes in a puff of smoke, or you make a really elaborate costume, right? And then you cast the Mislead, and the Mislead in costume goes in somewhere, and then they go to like rip off the mask, and woo, it's a phantom, and now you're outside and you're fine. It's a great, like, anytime Mislead comes up, cool shit's about to happen. And I just think it's a great spell. And like it feels a little like nostalgic for me, because older versions of invisibility used to be a little stronger than the invisibility in 5th edition or 3rd. Yeah. So greater invisibility greater invisibility and Mislead are both kind of reminiscent of the way the invisibility used to work. And so it's like, whenever I'm using those spells, I feel like, oh yeah, now this is what I want out of a wizard. This is the shit that I'm after. I'm a better rogue than the rogue right now.
Because when he gets stabbed, he bleeds. But
Yeah, when
I
he
get
fucks
stabbed,
up his stealth check, he gets busted and he has to escape. But when I fuck up my stealth check, I get to be cool and be like, haha, I was never here. And then just disappear.
I had researched. I was thinking about playing a wizard. Just our campaign, I think, is coming to a close in the next several sessions, and I was thinking about my next PC, and I was reading up on some wizard combos. Basically, like hold person and any sort of deck save is pretty detrimental. Like disintegrate, because anything that's held by hold person immediately fails deck save, so fireballs or disintegrates would be pretty damning. There was a really neat one, pyrotechnics and flaming sphere, because you can use the bonus action flaming sphere to move it around and light stuff on fire. And then with pyrotechnics, you can have it shoot out smoke and fireworks from whatever fires you set. That's kind of fun.
Nice.
Good party trick.
Oh, this gets back to our Wizard Rock concert from episode 3.
Oh my god, deep callback, the deepest callbacks of Insight Check lore.
Well, as far as combinations go, something that appeals to me is the spells that you can cast on places, and then if you cast them consistently, it becomes permanent.
Oh, like
like teleportation circle.
Yeah, so like a combination of those things on like a tomb or on like a piece of land like really appeals to me. Like, why are there so many of these that were cast so often? This looks like a, ruin or just like a piece of grass. What's going on here? Kind of thing.
Oh man, what is that one that like makes your base super difficult to infiltrate?
Is it Guards and Wards?
Guards and Wards.
Yes. Yeah. Guards and Wards is super cool. Like that is a totally underutilized spell.
Yeah. There's even a lot of like choice in that spell too.
Yeah, there's it's got a million little sub options. Program Delusion. On the lower magic level, you got Magic Mouth. I mean, these don't necessarily become permanent, but they are spells that you cast on a specific location, and they allow you to set up way more elaborate traps and plans because they're not concentration. Like they get away from that limiting factor of most wizardy magic. Another good low level spell like that is, oh gosh, what's the one where you can cast a spell into it and it'll hold it?
Ooh.
Glyph of Warding.
Glyph of Warding, yes.
Yes, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can cast
level.
any spell, 3rd level or lower. So you can like Glyph of Warding create like a minor illusion, and then so when they open the door, there's like an illusion of you sitting in the room, and you turn around and say, "Shut up! Get out of my room! I'm changing clothes." So like it'll like make people leave your room, and they don't ever know you left.
Make a modesty saving throw.
Could you imagine like a wizard who lived with their like younger sibling, and then like it's this whole dungeon where like one of the wizards was trying to like make a sanctuary against their younger sibling.
Absolutely, and it would have the most lethal traps of all.
Yeah,
as a person with siblings, I would be like, "Listen, I warned you about the acid pit. It's your own fault. If you wanted your legs, you shouldn't have gone in my room.
I want to run a prank dungeon now."
Yeah, it's very good. Guards and Wards, Program Delusion, Magic Mouth. You can do so much. Come on, it's crazy. Glyph of Warding. Glyph of Warding is really cool. I remember one time when I gave my players an airship, and they did Glyph of Warding, and they stored the fly spell inside the Glyph of Warding.
Oh, very cool.
So, like, they got into a fight on the ship, and they would all just run to these squares, and suddenly they could fly. And, like, they could just fly around fighting in the air. And then after the battle, they would just recharge those cliffs.
Yes.
Yeah, it was super cool. It was very
Crouching
like
Tiger,
superhero
Hidden
movie.
Dragon. Hey.
Your base should be protected. Like if you're not like building up your base with magical protections, what the?
Oh, that's why you keep blowing up our boats.
I know.
We haven't learned the lesson
you'd
yet.
Start casting protective magic on it, but it never happens.
Whoops.
It never happens.
Nope. That's okay. We keep getting a new boat, so we're good.
You're fine.
Real important question again, coming from Alvin Dergel.
So this is like the third Alvin question?
This is the second, yes. And it's just a real straightforward one, real important. Wizard hat or no wizard hat? If yes, what pattern?
Definitely wizard hat. It would depend.
You put on your robe and wizard hat? Okay.
No robe. Just the hat. So, yeah, I think I would want to flavor it to the wizard. School of Invention actually looks really nice. Mm-hmm. So a School of Invention wizard, if I were to, do that, I would want the hat to be helpful in the inventioning that is to come. So maybe like it would be like the brim. So we're, when I think spellcaster hat, I'm thinking like witch hat with the pointy and like the brim.
Mm-hmm.
And so the brim is like a cog, and like they can take their hat off and put it in their infernal machine and crank it or something. And that's their hat. Yeah.
What if only wizard hat?
Like no
like
clothes.
Nothing else.
No, like you wear like a super big wizard hat as your clothes.
I mean,
you're like one of those.
Holly Conrad would make it cute and also
That's
stylish.
true.
Yeah. So just like it's like a hoop skirt. It comes down and then like suddenly wides out at the brim.
Yeah.
And then just like it's just like maybe a foot off the ground and your feet are just poking out the bottom.
It'd be hard to walk.
Your head's coming out of the top. Weirdly, it's not on top of your head, which is the fun part. And then your arms are just popped out of the side of the top.
And then you sway back and forth, advertising the local magic store.
I think just as ridiculous would be an inverted wizard hat.
Oh yeah, like the tip on your head and then it widens.
Poise, Gandalf.
Oh my gosh.
Poise.
You would have to be really balanced to maintain that. Maybe some sort of strap scenario.
Maybe
I don't
some
know.
spell or something.
Yeah, I mean, in a world with magic.
It's it demonstrates your prowess.
Mm-hmm.
How straight
and as far as the
is.
pattern goes, it's got to be stars, right?
Yeah.
That's classic. Yeah. That's
invention,
classic.
maybe gears. Like
You're
I like Jerika's
wizard,
idea.
Rincewind.
Yeah. I like my wizard hats to be broken in the middle, bent over with the stars, blue, that classic aesthetic. I don't want to stray too far from that classic wizard aesthetic when I'm playing wizard. I want to feel like a wizard.
Gandalf doesn't have stars on it, though.
Listen, Gandalf was a hack. All he could do was the light cantrip.
Oh, shit.
Whoa.
Gandalf never cast any spells in the whole book.
That is a bold
What about
statement.
when he and Saruman go at it? He's like doing some telekinesis and crap.
He broke his staff. I mean,
That's my best spell.
yeah. He did like a little
breaking.
thundercrack of lightning and it broke the guy's staff. Like that's it. Now listen, Saruman, he was a wizard. He did spells. Listen, that guy did some fucking spells. All right.
Where was his hat, though?
But Gandalf the Grey, and then subsequently Gandalf the White, because he did die.
Just like a wizard. I the part of me that wants to talk about Maiar and how when they're instantiated in physical human bodies, the wealth of their godly power is much more limited. But I'm going to stop myself because someone's going to beat me up and take my milk money. I'm going to move on to some questions that we've pulled off the excellent annals of RD&D. This one coming from, gentleman and scholar Ripper62. Overchannel. How does it interact with spells that are concentrated on over time, i.e. call lightning?
It happens the first turn and then it's done.
See, I saw a lot of different questions about this. I saw people saying that it can happen on the second turn, but then they take that necrotic damage. And every time they bring the lightning bolt down, more necrotic damage.
I would say that's a very generous interpretation of that spell. If you wanted to run it that way, that's fine, but I think that the way that Overchannel is intended to work is that it allows you to maximize damage on a casting, and then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to do it again, there's that risk versus reward where you take that damage that accumulates.
Mm-hmm. And it gets nasty, even because it's times the spell level. So if you do a high,
Overchannel is nasty. It's max damage on a spell at the 5th level.
Mm-hmm.
5th level Fireball is, you guys saw, the cleric being able to maximize damage on the Call Lightning.
with Channel
was
Divinity,
doing 60 damage around.
It hurts. It hurts bad.
Yeah, and that's Channel Divinity twice.
Mm-hmm.
With Overchannel, you can do it as long as you've got HP left.
Okay, well then I think that's a pretty straightforward one. So let's move on to the next one. I'm trying to come up with ideas for why a patron of the PCs, a divination wizard, is trying to contact the gods. I just can't really figure out why my wizard NPC would ask a deity. I intend for this character to be a good guy, if that helps at all. Thanks for any responses in advance. This is coming from Parmonti on our D&D. So a wizard who is trying to reach out to a deity, a little bit of a mixture of flavor there.
A crisis of self-image.
Sure.
Some impotent spells, for example, are forcing this wizard to seek a
higher power
place to get spells.
Dear God, please make my fireballs all the more voluminous.
It does look like they get contact other plane, and it does look like they get augury. So there's a precedent for them contacting deities in their spell list.
Mm-hmm. So what do we think about a wizard? I mean, I know in Sorokos Adventures Guide they have the Arcana domain, which is like a cleric, which has a wizard flavor to them. But what are we thinking about? There's nothing straight currently in terms of a wizard with a more clerical bent to them. What would be your would there be homebrew involved, or would it just be reflavoring of things?
I feel like wizards are all about that knowledge. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of gods that are gods of knowledge. I feel like those could, the wizard might even have enough hubris to be like, hey, I'll make you a deal. The god will be like, oh boy.
Do I look like a warlock patron? Do you? The god in my mind is very sassy. It's a very sassy
The best gods are sassy gods.
Moving on, we have a question from Zather DeFox. So his question is, the Conjuration Wizard can summon a non-magical item that they have seen as an action. It doesn't say it can't deal damage. So if you had seen a bomb or a hand grenade, as per the DMG, could you technically summon a live explosive every turn? I feel like most DMs would rule against this, but rules as written, it seems like it would work to me. Thoughts?
I mean, I feel like there's a reason why explosives aren't the most common item in D&D.
If you want to make the boom goes the dynamite wizard, I want to make sure that there's like a penalty for this. Like you
can
summon
only
it,
throw it 5 feet around and you get blast damage, splash damage.
You summon, a stick of dynamite, but how big the lit fuse is when it conjures into your hand is randomly decided. A little of that wild magic flavor cooked into the wizard.
I mean, I would just say no. I would just say no lit dynamite in your conjuration. Like that's crazy. You're crazy. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
It seems like the least amount of creativity for the most amount of boom. He's trying to get as much bang for his buck as possible, and it's like,
yeah, this sounds like some classic min-maxing bullshit. Which, like, if you are having fun mitigating all risk and threat in the game, then I don't know, that's kind of strange. It seems like going on an adventure is why we do the thing.
I summon the control pad to an orbital laser platform.
Yeah, I would just, I'm sure that there's some limitation in the conjuration description, and I would just go in there and rules lawyer it against my player if they kept doing it. I would just be like, oh, actually, this means this, and as a DM, I'm going to rule this, and just be like, no. This cannot be, you cannot have, a fireball for free every round. No, thank you. Sorry.
Fair. Absolutely fair. Well, we got one more question coming from our good friend Zather DeFox again, whom we've already decided is probably not a player we want in our game. So let's see which kind of bullshit he's going to try to drop on us this time.
Hey, Zather, if you're listening to this,
play better.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Don't listen to air. You're fine.
A good boy.
I'm sure you're just a curious
you're a good
boy
fox
with a good heart.
Yeah. who just wants all the spells to do the things. As an illusion
Let's see
wizard
this question.
at 14th level, can I make one item from an illusion every round as a bonus action, or is it supposed to be one per illusion spell? With Major Image, you could technically make 100 items if you could do it every round. Not really a practical point, but it seems fun. So what he's referring to there is the illusion wizard at 14th level gets an ability called illusory reality, where they can essentially make, subvert, that's not the word, suffuse their illusion spells with shadow magic and make their illusions real for 1 minute.
All right, I take back everything I said. You're the worst. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
I don't like you anymore.
I make 101 lawn gnomes and
You're
I make
giving
them
air bad ideas.
real. Yeah, you know this is the kind of bullshit I would bring into our
So
game.
isn't it limited by the how many spells and how quickly you can cast the spell?
So there are some spells. Yeah, there are some spells. So this is a bonus action you do it on, but there's some spells like hallucinatory terrain or Mirage Arcane that let you like make a huge illusion, like the entire battlefield or the entire dungeon you're in or whatever. You can make an illusory. And then as a bonus action, you could just start screwing around. So essentially, you can choose one inanimate, non-magical object that is part of the illusion and make that object real. So you could just go around snapping your fingers and be like, that chair is real, that painting's real, that dragon's real, that... Well, maybe not. It doesn't say creature, but you could basically this is the Green Lantern power. You can just create blunt force instruments or, structures with your mind.
Doesn't it say one item?
It says one. So yeah. No, I'm sorry, Zather the Fox. You can make one of those things. It says so in the spell. You been rules lawyered.
Yeah, I think that this is a no-brainer. If it sounds stupidly broken to you, it's probably going to sound stupidly broken to your DM. And ultimately, all of this stuff comes down to what the DM says is the rules at your table. And more importantly, I'm pretty sure we can look up a very quick Google search on Mike Merles will probably reveal he's already ruled on this 100 years ago. Or Jeremy Crawford. Because they're always making these little, extra... What are they called?
Errata.
Yeah, these erratas that help define the scope and abilities of spells. Basically, if you read a spell and it immediately jumps out to you as broken, look for errata, because it probably exists. Somebody's probably already thought about this stuff before you have. But yeah, anyway. And also, if your purpose in D&D is to be as powerful as possible, that's fine. If your purpose in D&D is to break the game, that's not okay.
It's not okay. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't break the game. The game is fun, and if it's broken, you can't play it.
I guess it's not okay. I guess don't do that.
I mean, do you think it's okay?
No, y'all just said it, so I felt left out.
Okay. Hey, everybody, that was another episode of Insight Check, and if you thought it went by fast, so did I. I feel like I just started recording. But if you enjoyed it, and I hope that you did, if you enjoyed it, please leave a comment or a review on iTunes or on Podbean or anywhere else that you find us. If you would like to have your question answered, then go ahead and add us on Twitter at InsightCheckPod, or you can join us in our lovely public Discord where we are hanging out with cool people. We want to thank Vinsvet for our intro and outro music, Never Stand Alone. There's also a vocals version. People don't know this somehow. And we'd also like to thank Amy T. Falcone for our faces. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have faces. And that wouldn't be great. And as always...
answering your cues from our collective A's. This
was
Insight Check! Mama, we said it at the same time. And stop recording.
Only when combined are we the Pope of D&D.
When three of us gather together.
Only when we have fused into our ultimate form.
Popetron.
Do we become the Pope of D&D? If we are at odds on an issue, then the Pope is dead.
And we
Straight
have
on
to
the ground.
wait for the right colored smoke to rise up out of the D&D.
All right. So anyway,